Marks with a part 7 of my Whispers of the Old Gods review. Part 7 is the Rogue. If you watched any of the previous parts, you'll know that I will go through the Rogue cards and then build a deck that I think will be good in the Rogue metagame. So, here we go. Alright, so overall, fairly disappointed with Rogue cards. I believe that Rogue would have been one of the strongest classes without the Blade Flurry nerf. With the Blade Flurry nerf, it makes it a bit rougher, and therefore, it would have been nice to see something. I think it's obvious Blizzard's kind of like trying to push the Death Rattle Rogue, and the problem is I just don't think a lot of these cards are completely great. So, anyways, let's go through the cards. So the first card, Zharl Poison Mine, Battlecry and Death Rattle, add random toxin to your hand. So those toxins are pretty great. Let's go. I think they're down at the bottom here. We can look at them. Yeah, so deal 2 damage is obviously really good. Give a minion +3 attack, at least decent. It's like Blessing of Might or whatever. Turn a friendly minion, so 1 mana Shadow Step, a Conceal for 1 mana, and draw a card. So the first thing that jumps out at me with this card is basically Gadgetzan Auctioneer, right? So this is most likely a Gadgetzan Auctioneer card. Seems great with Gadgetzan Auctioneer, and I believe the best rogue decks will be probably some sort of Malygos rogue, and this card's great. I mean, so this card is basically like, you just throw it out there to get the 2/1 mana spells, and then whenever you do get around to using the Gadgetzan, you go crazy with it, right? So, seems pretty good. I'm assuming people will play this with 2 Tomb Pillagers and 2 Violet Teachers, probably, or no, maybe won't be able to fit that many Violet Teachers. I don't know. Probably I'm just going to build a Malygos Rogue, because even though it will be sort of boring, because it will have like, 1 new card in it, it will also just be an exercise in seeing how Rogue will be. Also, I think this is the best sort of thing we get as a Rogue. As a sort of disclaimer, Rogue is one of my least played classes, so actually my least played class, so maybe I'm not really as qualified to talk about this one, but I'm going to because, well, it's my video, so cheers. Alright, so overall I'd say this card's good. I don't think it's like amazing, because it's a 3/2, which sucks, so it's a lot of value for a mana investment, and I think it fits in with the sort of Gadgetzan combo stuff. If you get the stealth one, you can use it as a conceal, which probably you won't be able to play actual conceal, so that can be pretty great. The Shadow Step thing can obviously be pretty good in Rogue. I mean, it's hard to fit it in, but like you're going to have Azure Drake and SI7 in your deck and stuff like that, so Shadow Stepping one of those will always be pretty good. So I think the big sort of tough thing to deal with is going to be the healing. Probably we're going to end up playing multiple Earthen Ring Farseers because Healbot's gone, and there's that new healing card's probably not good enough. So, alright, Blade of Cthulhu. This card's interesting. I mean, it's obviously an extremely powerful effect. It's basically an Assassinate and a 4/4 for 9 mana, and then as a bonus you get a bunch of damage on your Cthulhu. If Cthulhu turns out to be way better than I expect and everyone's playing Cthulhu and we're going to play Rogue Cthulhu, then this card's probably good. I mean, even though it's 9 mana, it's just, you could, for example, play like a really controlling rogue that doesn't have many of the more mediocre mid-range Cthulhu minions, and then just play a couple of these and then play a Cthulhu, and that's it, and then just ideally wait until they play their Cthulhu and then play to Cthulhu their Cthulhu. if the Cthulhu doesn't kill you. I mean, if you can pull that off, you're probably in pretty good shape. But yeah, I don't know. It's certainly not like amazing or anything, but I think it's interesting and probably fun at the least, so that's good at least. I like this kind of card just because it's it's at least fun, so that's good. Shadowcaster, Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, add a 1/1 copy to your hand. I mean, this effect is obviously good, but I just don't see this being fast enough because it's a 5 mana 4/4, and like when you're playing Rogue, you're going to want to play Azure Drake. Granted, you used to play Loatheb and maybe Sludge Belcher or Healbot, so in theory you could play Azure Drake and this, but I don't know. So I'm not the most experienced player as a Rogue, but I am very experienced playing against Rogue, and I have a super high win rate against Rogue. And let me tell you, the secret to beating Rogue, which you may already know, is you do not allow Rogue to keep minions on the board, right? Like, now, this may change because Tinker Sharpshort Oil is going away and Blade Flurry is getting nerfed, so it's even less, I guess, necessary to do that than it was before because they can't pull those big bursts or whatever. However, if Rogue doesn't have minions in play and they're playing reactive, it's really hard for them, right? So that's probably still going to be the ideal strategy to play against Rogue, and therefore this card's just going to be pretty weak. Like, I mean, the exception is obviously if the whole Death Rattle Mounted Raptor Rogue works, then I guess that possibly gives you some play with this sort of thing because it's more likely to keep Death Rattles in play. But yeah, I find it hard to fit in. 5 mana 4/4 is okay. I mean, this is basically the same as an Azure Drake in a lot of ways because 1/1 copy of something's similar to a card, but it's sometimes better than a card and sometimes worse. Like if you manage to pull this off on an Azure Drake, for example, it's amazing because then you have a 1-mana Azure Drake, which is a card and also gives you the spell power as well, and also lets you do some really nice combos with Azure Drake, you know, getting the spell damage for only 1 mana. So if you pull this off on an Azure Drake, it's amazing. That seems unlikely. How many times has your Azure Drake stood in play for a turn, right? What's more likely is you're playing some sort of Death Rattle deck and you manage to stick a Death Rattle, like in Wild maybe, even in Standard. That's not going to happen, right? Standard Death Rattles aren't sticky. You know, they're still just going to be dead. Your minions don't survive in Hearthstone generally, so in Wild this card could be good. In a Death Rattle deck maybe. It's more likely you can stick like Shredder or something a turn, or you know, Haunted Creeper and Rubian Egg getting an extra 1 for 1 mana. It's decent. So still not great though. Next card is Thistletea. Well, so this card obviously is just it's a ton of value and it's super random, but like it can be very, very good. I think a card like this is really interesting. I mean, like, it's 6 mana, so like you have to be ahead or at least not too far behind to pull it off. If you do pull it off, it's a ton of value. It's probably not going to be good enough, but like the one thing I will say is like one thing I've kind of messed around a little bit with and haven't really had a whole lot of success with yet is the Reno Jackson Rogue. Reno Jackson Rogue actually may be a lot better in the next iteration of Standard because a lot of the cards that you used to be automatic 2-ofs, like you can get away with, for example, 1 Blade Flurry now because Blade Flurry is so nerfed, but you probably still want one, right? Trying to think of 2-ofs that really matter. I mean, obviously, for example, one of the other cards, Shadow Strike, makes it less likely that you need to play 2 Eviscerates, for example. You can just play 2 backstab. Like, you can play a Reno deck with a few duplicates, right? And you can pick some of the more early game cards. So, for example, you could play 2 backstabs and maybe only play 1 Eviscerate and 1 SI, but you play 2 backstabs and you could play like a Reno Rogue, and then Thistletea could work pretty well in a Reno Rogue as like a second sprint, basically. Obviously, you only get 1 prep, but it could work. I don't know. I mean, one of the sort of weaknesses of Reno Rogue was like just being able to get enough draw, I think. So this could work, but it's probably not going to see play. But I want it to, just because like the inner value in me. It just, you know, what I really want to do is like Thistletea, Zeril, Poisoned Mind, and get 3 of them, you know, and then just get like 7 or 6 toxins or whatever, you know. So there are some crazy things that could happen with it, so it could just be really good. It's Probably not better than Sprint though, and so it probably won't really see play, and probably Sprint won't see play as my guess. I think people will be playing Gadgets in, especially given the Zero card, but we'll see, I guess. Next card, Undercity Huckster. First I thought this card was amazing, but then I just kind of realized that it's just sort of like a loot hoarder, more or less. Obviously it has 1 more health, and the card's a little worse, but I mean overall it's not really too much different than a loot hoarder. The only way it's really better than a loot... I mean, it can be crazy, right? You can get really lucky. You can be playing Paladin and get a Tyrion. You know, that can happen. But you also can be playing Paladin and get, like, something terrible. I mean, nothing's coming to mind exactly right now, but, like, you certainly can get a really, really bad card or a really good card. Whereas a card from your own deck is going to be much more consistently good because all your cards are going to be good, you would think. So it seems like this card's worse than Loot Hoarder in general, even though it has 1 more health. So, like, the only place this really fits is as being, like, another early game 2-drop for Raptor. The problem is, like, the problem with Raptor, which is the same problem that Raptor had before, and it's even more pronounced now, is that, like, it's hard to keep a 2-drop in play. I mean, things don't live in Hearthstone very often. Most times you play something and it dies, so it's more likely that Raptor needs to be played on turn 5 with something, which makes Raptor way worse. And then, like, if you're only just getting 1 extra card out of a Raptor, then all of a sudden you're, like, setting up this big combo on turn 5 to just get 1 extra card, and that's just not good enough. So, I mean, this is sort of the same, but I mean, I'll probably try it. I'll probably try a Raptor Rogue, and this will probably be in it, but it just seems like just mediocre to me. Discover a Death Rattle card. I think the best part about this is actually the fact that it's a combo enabler for 1 mana. If Death Rattle Rogue is a thing, this I would assume should be in it. There are some nice Rogue Death Rattles, right? You can get a Zeraul Poison Mind, you can get another Tomb Pillager. So there are some nice cards you can get. You still can get a Sylvanas or a Karn. So the problem is a lot of times you're going to end up with something pretty bad, but because I think you're mostly going to get something at least okay, though. I mean, even something like a Loot Hoarder or an Undercity Huckster is at least fine. You know, it's something you can play the next turn and blah, blah, blah. But I also do like this because, for example, if you're playing Raptor Rogue, you're probably not going to be playing like prep, I don't think. I think you're just going to be playing more minions, and obviously you'll probably still play Backstab and Eviscerate and stuff like that. But having another like combo enabler is nice so that you can make like turn 4 SIs with this or like that kind of thing. So it is nice. Also, it's nice for the combo activation. I guess we just really, to see how good it is, we need to see what death rattles there are and see the percentages. Like, what percentage do you get a Tomb Pillager, for example, right? Like, if you can get Tomb Pillagers and Zeraul the Poison Mines, could be pretty good. But my guess is it's sort of just okay. So let's see. Squidface 4 mana, 4/4 death rattle, give your weapon to attack. I don't think this is good. We just have to say what we're going to be competing with, right? Would you rather have this, or would you rather have Zeraul the Poison Mind? Would you rather have this, or would you rather have Tomb Pillager? Would you rather have this, or would you rather have Violet Teacher? I mean, just even if you're playing Pirates, like, is this card even good? You know, like, it's okay. 4 mana, 4/4 gives a weapon to attack. I mean, I would say Spiteful Smith is 1 extra mana. It's a 4/6 and gives weapons to attack. You know, when it's damaged. I don't know. This doesn't seem great. Shadow Strike, deal 5 damage to undamaged character. This is at least okay. I mean, the card I would compare it to is Shadow Bolt because it's unlikely to be a face card. I mean, you're not just going to like hit them to 25 when they're at 30, right? So mostly this is going to hit minions. So Shadow Bolt doesn't really see a lot of play, and this does 1 extra damage, which makes it better. I will say, like, I think this card will be really good in Raptor Rogue because if Raptor Rogue's a board control deck, right? And so, like, if you've played Midrange Hunter or if you've played Shaman, like the new sort of aggro Shaman, which is a bit more of board control, mid-range board control in the early game with Burst in the late game, those two decks play very similarly, actually. So Raptor Rogue could be the same sort of thing, right? Where oftentimes in those decks you kill Commander Lava Burst like a Belcher, which obviously Belcher doesn't exist, but like being able to kill a 5-mana minion for or a 5/5 minion that's 5 or 6 mana for 3 mana is pretty decent as a tempo play. So, but the fact that it can't go face is pretty bad. So I don't know. We'll see. Probably we'll see play, but my guess is it's more medium to good, not great. Bladed Cultist. So 1 mana 2/3s are really good. So if you can reliably combo this, it seems decent. I don't know. It seems like, for example, with coin, if you drew 2 of these, that's amazing. But like if you draw 1, what are you going to like coin this and then just float a mana? Then it's basically a 2 mana 2/3, right? So that's not good. So yeah, I don't think it's great. I think it's just okay. I probably will try some deck where I play this and I play the Journey from Below and I play the 2 mana guy that makes a 2/2 and a 2/1 and just try to like swarm the board early with Rogue and see how that works. Probably will try it. But I don't know. Guess we just gotta try it and see. Overall, reasonably disappointed with Rogue cards. I feel like Rogue really almost was sort of pseudo-promised something. Like whenever Blade Flurry was nerfed, they basically were saying, we're doing this so we can like have some new cards that are going to, you know, be exciting for Rogue, and Rogue's going to be in a new direction and whatever. But then they just released a bunch of kind of bad Death Rattle cards, and that's it. There's no new weapons, there's no new direction at all. It's just going to be the same Rogue that's worse, you know, so kind of disappointing, but I guess we always have the next expansion to hope for. Alright, so let's go ahead and build like what I think a Malygos Rogue deck will look like. Alright, so we're going to be building an Auctioneer deck, I believe. Probably not playing Conceal. Probably still going to play 1 Blade Flurry, even with the nerf. Edwin's interesting, so a lot of times the Malygos Rogues don't play Edwin, but I think Edwin's just so much stronger in the new format. Play the Tomb Pillager. So we need some heal. I can't imagine this is good enough, so I mean, being that we can't play Healbot, I think we just have to play... Oh, Refreshment Vendor could work, but we have so many 4-drops. But it only shows standard. So there is one thing which I've done before, which is something to at least think about, which is to play Reno Jackson in Malygos Rogue. The reason is because you often draw your whole deck, so it doesn't matter that you have duplicates. Like your whole plan is to basically draw your whole deck, so... Like you're playing a whole bunch of draw and Gadget Sad, so I think, I don't know. For now we'll try the 2 Earthen Rings and see. So, something like this. Are we missing anything obvious? this deck has no taunts and just Earth and Rings as the heals, but still possible it will work. Something like that is what I would run. Alright, well, that's the end of my Part 7 Rogue review. Probably sometime later, next time I come back, I will be doing Shaman. I still have 3 more parts to go. It's our Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. Next one is Shaman, which I think everyone knows Shaman is one of the benefactors of this set, but I will give you my opinions on that, and thanks for watching this video.